It all started so innocent, or at least that's what I thought. One evening, Matthew sat me down, looking completely drained, like life had just beaten every ounce of energy out of him. He rubbed his temples, let out this heavy sigh, and said, I need a break. Not from you. From everything. I need time to reconnect, to figure myself out. And then came the bomb, a spiritual retreat, somewhere remote. No phones, no distractions. Just peace, healing, and apparently personal growth. At first, I just stared at him, trying to process it. A retreat? Really? But as the shock settled, my heart softened. Maybe this was good. Maybe some space would help. He'd been distant lately, moody, snappy. I told myself it was stress, work, money, life piling up. So I took a deep breath, squeezed his hand, and said, if this is what you need, then go. I'll hold things together here. And I meant it. I honestly believed this could be a reset. For him. For us. The next morning, I watched him pack. Yoga mats, journals, some comfy clothes. Everything you'd expect someone to take to a meditation retreat. He kissed me goodbye, whispered, I love you, and drove off. And for the first couple of days, I kept myself busy. I missed him, sure, but I felt proud of how supportive I was being. I even told my friends, it's a spiritual thing, for his mental health. But as the silence dragged on, this strange little itch started creeping into the back of my mind. Tiny flashes, old memories, patterns I thought I'd buried. At first, I kept brushing it off. Don't be ridiculous, Gina, I told myself. He's at a retreat. Focus on yourself. Let him breathe. And for a while, that worked. I drowned myself in little things, reorganizing the kitchen drawers, catching up on old shows, even trying a new recipe or two. But then, those thoughts kept creeping back. Subtle things. Times when Matthew had acted distant before. Times when the explanations never quite added up, but I chose to trust him anyway. I started replaying old conversations in my head. His sudden late meetings, the random work trips that always popped up last minute, the way his phone was practically glued to him lately, face down every time he set it on the table. And as much as I tried to push it aside, I couldn't lie to myself. Something felt off. Not screaming in my face, but whispering, quietly, persistently, in the back of my mind. I told myself it was just my imagination, that I was overthinking. I even laughed about it, shaking my head like I was being silly. Gina, you've been married for 23 years. You know this man. He's not like that. But the truth is, the more I tried to convince myself, the louder that little voice got. And the worst part? I hated that I even had these thoughts. I hated that I was questioning the man I built my entire life with. But deep down, something just didn't feel right. By the fourth night, I couldn't shake it anymore. That pit in my stomach? It wasn't going anywhere. I tried calling, just to hear his voice, even though I knew he'd said there'd be no phones allowed. Straight to voicemail. No surprise. Still. Something about that cold, automated message made my skin crawl. I sat there, staring at my phone, thinking, why does this feel wrong? Why does this feel familiar? I walked around the house, looking at all the little pieces of our life together, the framed pictures, the coffee mug he always left on the counter, the shoes by the door. And for the first time, they didn't comfort me. They mocked me. Because if something was really going on, if my gut wasn't just playing tricks, then what did any of this mean? What was any of it even worth? But then I shook my head. No, stop it. You're spiraling. I forced myself to believe that he was exactly where he said he was. That this retreat was real. That he was sitting cross-legged somewhere, eyes closed, breathing in incense and chanting mantras. I held onto that image as tight as I could, until one little thing, one tiny, unexpected moment, shattered it completely. It was such an ordinary day. I wasn't looking for answers. I wasn't even thinking about it, really. I was just out running errands, groceries, pharmacy, nothing special. And that's when it happened. I bumped into Claire. Not a close friend, more like an acquaintance. Someone I only ever saw at community events or random school functions back in the day. We exchanged the usual small talk. How have you been? How's the family? And then, right as I was about to say goodbye, she tilted her head and smiled. Oh, by the way, isn't that your car I saw by the Lake District? Thought you two were out on a little getaway. My heart dropped. I froze. For a second, I couldn't even process what she'd just said. The Lake District? I repeated, trying so hard to keep my voice steady. She just nodded casually. Yeah, yesterday. Near that cute inn by the water. I could have sworn it was Matthew's car, same plates and everything. She laughed like it was nothing, just casual conversation, completely oblivious to the fact that my entire body had turned to ice. I forced a smile. I nodded. I pretended it was no big deal. But the moment I walked away, my hands started shaking. My mind raced, trying to make it make sense. It can't be. Maybe he stopped there on his way to the retreat. Maybe it's a mistake. A coincidence. I was throwing excuses at my own face like spaghetti at a wall, praying something would stick. But even as I said it, my gut whispered back, Gina, you know better. By the time I got home, I couldn't breathe. That innocent little comment from Claire, it had completely hijacked my brain. I paced around the living room, trying to convince myself I was overreacting. Maybe the retreat's near the Lake District. Maybe he stopped for gas, or food, or... But the more I said it out loud, the more ridiculous it sounded. And that's when something snapped. I grabbed my laptop. If there was any way to quiet this storm in my head, it was finding proof that this retreat was real. I typed in the name of the place he mentioned, over and over, different spellings, nearby towns, nearby anything, nothing, not a single listing, no yoga center, no meditation retreat, no spiritual healing camp, just nothing. My fingers started trembling, my chest tightened. No, this can't be. I refreshed the page, as if somehow that would make it magically appear. But it didn't. And that's when I knew. I knew. My heart started pounding so loud it felt like it echoed through the walls. But part of me wasn't ready to accept it. Not yet. I needed more. I needed something undeniable. So I opened the banking app, hands shaking, breath shallow. I scrolled. And there it was. My eyes locked onto the name, a romantic inn, a well-known couple's getaway, multiple charges, room service, spa, dinner for two. I just sat there, staring at the screen. My heart wasn't just pounding, it was breaking, splitting wide open. I could barely breathe. My fingers hovered over the mouse, paralyzed. No, this can't be real. This cannot be real. But it was. Oh, it was real. Right there in black and white. Undeniable, gut-wrenching proof. While I sat here thinking he was meditating, reflecting, healing, he was living some twisted little fantasy at a romantic inn with someone else. Tears blurred my vision. I wiped them away, furious. Not just hurt, furious. Because this wasn't just betrayal. This was deception on a whole other level. He didn't just cheat. He crafted an entire story, a retreat, a spiritual journey. He looked me in the eye, the man I loved, the man I trusted with my entire life. And he lied. Without even flinching. For a moment, I felt myself collapse. Not physically, but emotionally. I sank into the couch like the weight of the world had finally crushed me. I wanted to scream. I wanted to break something. But instead, something strange happened. Somewhere beneath the heartbreak. A shift. A flicker. Like a spark in the middle of the wreckage. Because if he thought I was clueless, If he thought I was going to sit here, sobbing in the dark, waiting for him to come home with more lies. Oh, he had no idea what was coming. The next morning, I woke up with one single thought pounding in my head. I needed confirmation. Solid, undeniable. Not just bank statements. Not just assumptions. I needed to hear it. I needed to know for sure. So, with my hands shaking and my heart doing somersaults in my chest, I dialed the number for that inn. I rehearsed my lines over and over in my head. Just stay calm, Gina. Just breathe. You're just confirming a reservation. That's it. A cheerful voice picked up. Good morning. Thank you for calling the Whispering Pines Inn. How may I help you? And right there, my stomach flipped. My mouth went dry. Hi. Yes. I'm just calling to confirm a booking for Matthew. For this weekend? My voice cracked a little, but I held it together. Barely. There was a brief pause. Fingers typing in the background. And then, oh yes, Matthew Collins, honeymoon suite, checked in on Friday. 2 guests. They're all set. Spa package and everything. I swear. The room started spinning. For a moment, I didn't even hear the rest of what she was saying. Honeymoon suite, 2 guests, spa package. It felt like someone reached into my chest and just squeezed. I managed to mumble a thank you before hanging up. And then I just sat there, completely frozen, hands trembling, breath caught somewhere between a gasp and a sob. He did it. He actually did it. The man I trusted, the man I loved, he lied. He lied to my face. I sat there completely numb, staring at the floor like it might give me answers. My ears were ringing. My chest felt tight, like something heavy was sitting right on it. I tried to breathe, but every breath felt shallow. How could he do this to me? I whispered into the empty room. This wasn't just some random fling. This was calculated. He planned this, built this entire fake narrative about finding himself, while in reality, he was wrapped up in some fantasy with another woman. 100 memories started crashing into me at once. Every dinner we'd shared, every laugh, every I love you, every promise, and now it all felt tainted, like everything we built together had a crack running through it the entire time. I just hadn't seen it. Or maybe I did. Maybe I just didn't want to see it. And now? Now the truth was standing right in front of me, loud and ugly and undeniable. But as the shock started to settle, something else bubbled up underneath it. A heat. A fire. It started in my gut and spread to my chest, my arms, my hands. Oh, he thinks I'm sitting here, completely clueless. He thinks I'm waiting for him. Cooking dinner, folding laundry, praying for his spiritual enlightenment. Oh no, 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 no. He has no idea who he just betrayed, and he has no idea what's coming. I stood up, pacing the living room like a caged animal. My hands balled into fists, not because I wanted to hit something, but because I needed to hold myself together. I could feel it, this shift happening inside me. The version of me that trusted him, that defended him, that believed in every word he said. She was slipping away, and what was left was someone sharper, stronger, someone done being played for a fool. I pulled out a notebook and started writing everything down. Dates, charges, times. I printed the bank statements. I screenshot the confirmation email from the inn. I even looked up a brochure for the place, just for good measure. Every little piece of evidence lined up like dominoes. I wasn't just confronting him. No, I was building my case. He wasn't going to gaslight me. Not this time. And as I stared at the growing pile of proof on my dining table, I felt something I hadn't felt in days. Power. A quiet, simmering power. Because the moment he walked through that door, pretending to be this enlightened man, pretending to have found himself, oh, he was in for the shock of his life. He thought he was coming home to the same woman he left behind. But that woman? She was gone. A few days later, I heard the sound of keys jingling at the front door. My heart didn't even race. Not anymore. I was still, focused, ready. The door swung open, and there he was, Matthew. Same smug face, same tired sigh like he'd just climbed a mountain of self-discovery. He dropped his bag by the door, stretched his arms, and gave me this rehearsed smile. Babe, wow. You have no idea how intense this was. Life-changing. Seriously. I tilted my head and smiled. Oh, I smiled. Oh, really? Life-changing, huh? I could hear the fake sincerity dripping from his words. He rambled on, talking about group meditations, soul-cleansing workshops, how disconnecting from technology gave him so much clarity. I nodded along, letting him spin his little fairy tale, letting him dig that hole, one sentence at a time. He kept going, not even noticing how quiet I was, how still. He didn't see the way my arms were folded. He didn't catch the way my eyes weren't soft like they usually were. No, he was too busy selling his performance. Too busy convincing himself that I was buying every word. And oh, part of me almost wanted to let him finish, just to see how far he'd go, just to see how deep he'd bury himself before I dropped the bomb. When he finally paused to catch his breath, that's when I moved, slow, calm. I walked over to the dining table, the one where we'd shared countless meals, birthdays, anniversaries, and now, it was about to become the stage for the biggest reality check of his life. I reached down, picked up the stack of papers I'd prepared, the credit card receipts, the brochure from the inn, the screenshot of the booking confirmation. I laid them down, one by one, deliberate, precise. His eyes followed my hands, confused at first. Then, I saw it. That flicker. That split second where his brain caught up to what his eyes were seeing. His face drained of color. His lips parted like he wanted to speak. But no words came out. He stammered, blinked, looked at me like he couldn't believe this was happening. Oh, but it was happening. It was very, very real. I crossed my arms, tilted my head, and looked him dead in the eye. So, did you find what you were looking for on your little retreat? I kept my voice steady, calm, deadly calm. Because I did. You could have heard a pin drop. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. He looked like a fish gasping for air. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. For a split second, I swear, he looked like a little boy caught with his hand in the cookie jar, scrambling for an excuse that just wouldn't come. His mouth fumbled with half sentences. Gina, I can explain. It's not what you think. I raised my hand, just one small gesture, and he stopped. Right there, mid-lie. Because I wasn't doing this. I wasn't about to sit there and listen to another word spill out of that mouth that had kissed me, and then turned around and kissed someone else. Save it. My voice was so calm it scared even me. You can pack your things. You're done here. You can go straight back to your little retreat, alone this time. His eyes widened. He actually had the nerve to look shocked. Like I was the unreasonable one here, like I was just supposed to cry, forgive, and sweep it under the rug. Not this time. Not ever again. I stood there, watching him, watching this man, this stranger I had once called my husband, scramble. And in that moment, something inside me clicked. The fear, gone. The heartbreak, fading. All that was left was clarity. Crystal clear clarity. This wasn't the end of me. Oh no. This was the beginning of something else entirely. The very next morning, I filed for divorce. No hesitation, no second guessing. Walking into that office, signing those papers, it felt like shedding a skin that had grown too tight, too heavy. And as I walked out, I realized something. I wasn't sad, not really. What I felt was free. Free from the lies, free from the weight of pretending. free from the version of me that kept holding on to someone who had let go of me a long time ago. Of course, word got out. Small towns have big mouths, friends, family, neighbors, and, oh, the whispers were loud, people pretending to be shocked, others pretending they hadn't noticed the cracks years ago. But here's the thing, I didn't care. For the first time in years, what people thought didn't matter. Their judgment wasn't mine to carry. That weight belonged to Matthew now. Let him explain the romantic getaway receipts. Let him sit in the mess he made. And as for me, I wasn't about to sit around licking wounds. No. I booked a real retreat, but this time it was for me, not to escape, not to numb the pain, but to heal, to rediscover the woman I used to be, the woman I lost somewhere between laundry loads and broken promises, a retreat for my own damn soul. One that didn't require lies to exist. That retreat wasn't about finding peace. It was about reclaiming my power. I woke up every morning to the sound of birds instead of broken promises. I sat by the water, journal in hand, writing letters I'd never send. To him, to myself, to the version of me that kept fighting for someone who stopped fighting a long time ago. And with every word, every tear, every deep breath, I felt pieces of myself stitching back together. I met women there. Women like me. Women who had walked through fires of betrayal, grief, loss, and survived. Strong, beautiful, radiant souls. And we laughed. Oh, we laughed. Something I hadn't done, really done, in months, maybe years. We shared stories. We shared pain. We shared victories. And suddenly, I didn't feel alone anymore. I wasn't some broken woman crawling through the rubble of her marriage. I was part of something bigger, a sisterhood of survivors. And the funny thing is, in the middle of all that healing, all that rediscovering, I realized how small he'd become, how small that betrayal really was compared to the life I still had in front of me. He wasn't my ending. He wasn't even close. He was just a badly written chapter in a book that I was finally learning to rewrite. On the last day of that retreat, I woke up before dawn. Something pulled me out of bed, like the universe itself whispering, "Come on, it's time." I wrapped myself in a blanket, walked to the top of this little hill behind the cabins, and waited. And as the sun started to rise, painting the sky with the softest shades of pink and gold, something inside me cracked open. But not in a painful way, in a freeing way. Like my soul had been holding its breath for years, and it could finally exhale. I stood there, arms crossed over my chest, watching that sun climb higher, and whispered to myself, his betrayal wasn't my ending. It was my beginning. And I meant it. Every word. Because for the first time in forever, I wasn't thinking about him. I wasn't thinking about what he did. I wasn't thinking about what I lost. I was thinking about what I was about to become. Who I was about to become. And as I walked back down that hill, I knew this wasn't just a retreat. This was my rebirth. A real one. On my terms. And the woman who drove up here broken? Oh, she wasn't leaving with me. She was gone. Left right there, in yesterday, because I was done surviving. From now on, I was living.